We start this morning with the first House hearings on the January 6th insurrection.
The House Select Committee will meet today for the start of potentially months of public testimony. Today's witnesses, 4 police officers who protected Congress that day, 2 from the Capitol Police and 2 from the D.C. Metro Police Department, including Michael Fanone, who suffered a heart attack during the siege. As far as who's asking the questions, Speaker Pelosi has now appointed 2 Republicans to the group. Congressman Adam Kinzinger will join Representative Liz Cheney. Kinzinger was added after Pelosi rejected a couple of Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy's choices for the panel, prompting the GOP leader to pull all 5 of his picks. The committee's chair is Democratic Congressman Benny Thompson. In a Washington Post opinion piece, he wrote, "The committee will provide the definitive accounting of one of the darkest days in our history." Congressman Jamie Raskin and Adam Schiff, both former impeachment managers, explained their goals for the hearing.
We're starting off with the law enforcement officers because they were on the front lines defending Congress, defending the democracy against these waves of medieval-style violence.
Our role is going to be to fully uncover the facts. What is it that people did at that rally to instigate violence? How many of them went to that rally fully planning to do violence even before it began? Where was the financing for it? What role did the administration play in it?
Last night, GOP leader McCarthy made a last-ditch effort to get more Republicans onto the Select Committee. He introduced a resolution on the House floor to push Speaker Pelosi to appoint all 5 of his picks to the group, but his efforts went nowhere in the democratically controlled House. All that political back and forth leading up to what will certainly be a historic day. Joining us now to break down what could happen is NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Leanne Caldwell and congressional reporter for Politico Nicholas Wu. So, Leanne, I want to start with you. Please set the stage. How will the hearings work today? What can we expect to see?
Good morning, Joe. This will be the first time that Congress officially hears from rank-and-file police officers who were on the front lines on that day. Now, some of the things we're going to see in some of the testimony our viewers might be familiar with, including a video of Officer Hodges, who was trapped and being crushed in those doors at the Capitol during this siege. But the Representative Adam Schiff tells reporters that we are going to see new video, things that have not been unearthed, different angles. So there will be some new testimony here. But as far as this is concerned, it's going to be extremely painful and emotional testimony because these officers are still experiencing the trauma and the effects from that day. So it could be an extremely difficult day for them. As far as the committee is concerned, we are going to hear opening statements from Representative Benny Thompson, the top Democrat, and Representative Liz Cheney, a Republican, who signals how important the Democrats think her position on the committee and her role on this committee will be. One other thing, Joe, it's going to be really interesting because most hearings on Capitol Hill, there's a lot of tension between Republicans and Democrats. This hearing, all the members, the 2 Republicans and the 7 Democrats, are mostly on the same page.
Nicholas, let's talk about something else that Chairman Thompson wrote in the Washington Post. He said, "This hearing is just the beginning of the Select Committee's work when it comes to the security of the Capitol and our democracy. Nothing will be off limits." What are you watching out for today and in the weeks and maybe even months ahead?
What I'm watching for today is exactly what this new footage from police officers is going to tell us. Is this going to show what other groups might have been present at the insurrection that we didn't know about, or what sort of weapons they carried? And then moving forward from here, Intelligence Chairman Schiff told us yesterday that he was hoping there would be greater compliance from the Biden administration with the committee's request for documents and witnesses than there had been with his investigations during the Trump administration. So I'll be waiting to see whether this means there will be better cooperation with the Department of Justice, Department of Homeland Security, other agencies who were still looking to learn lots from about the insurrection and what we knew about the threat beforehand.
Leanne, no surprise, we've seen plenty of back and forth between Speaker Pelosi and Leader McCarthy surrounding the makeup of this committee. But now does it look like we're seeing a larger fracture between McCarthy and the 2 Republicans on the committee, Cheney and Kinzinger?
Absolutely. The back and forth between McCarthy and Cheney and Kinzinger continues. Now, let's be clear. Cheney and Kinzinger have not cared about what Leader McCarthy has said about them. They think that they are doing the right thing, and they think that Leader McCarthy is capitulating to the former President Trump and his base. But that back and forth continued yesterday. Let's listen to what McCarthy said and how they responded.
Some Republicans have been saying that the GOP should play ball on this committee. You could get the three.
Who was that? Adam and Liz?
Well,
aren't they kind of like Pelosi Republicans?
When McCarthy called you a Pelosi Republican, how do you respond to that?
Look, it's childish. We're doing big things right now. We're getting to the answers of the worst attack on the Capitol since the War of 1812.
We have important work to do, and I think that's pretty childish.
So they both said that what Leader McCarthy doing and saying about them is childish, but Leader McCarthy has not chosen to participate in this select committee, but he is holding a press conference in the next hour with his 5 choices. So he's going to try to shape the message, but he will do that from the outside, not as a part of this process, Joe.
And Nicholas, quickly, in the end, is it possible for any outcome to be widely accepted, or no matter what, is it going to be dismissed on the right as partisan?
Republicans have been railing against this commission as partisan from the start. And even, it's worth remembering that Republicans in the Senate filibustered the bipartisan independent panel. So a lot of this could possibly be lost in the partisan mudslinging of Washington. But so we'll see what happens with that in the coming months.
All right, Leanne Caldwell and Politico's Nicholas Wu, thank you both for kicking us off this morning. We appreciate it.
Public officials are calling for more restrictions as the U.S. sees another rise in coronavirus cases. Cities across the U.S. are now bringing back mask mandates as White House officials say they won't lift the ban on travel from certain countries. NBC News Now correspondent Maura Barrett joins us this morning. Maura, good morning. Tell us more about the decision to keep these travel restrictions in place. What are some of the countries impacted by this? And does it mean anything for Americans with travel hopes abroad this year?
Good morning, Savannah. So this decision stems from the prevalence of the Delta variant in the U.S. this month. More than 80% of the cases that we're seeing are linked to Delta infections. And so these travel restrictions are actually more so impacting people looking to come into the U.S. Basically, right now, the U.S. Restricts any travel from any non-residents that have been in places like the U.K., South Africa, Iran, Brazil, other countries like that in the last 14 days. But this does also, the CDC is recommending that the U.S. citizens, Americans looking to travel this summer, avoid going to the U.K. given the surge in cases there. There aren't any other bans in terms of which countries you can go to, but the CDC recommends if you're looking to travel to take a look at their website, and you can look at the risk level of each COVID risk in other countries that you're looking to go to.
Okay, let's now talk vaccinations. A coalition of leading medical groups is calling for mandatory vaccinations for all healthcare workers. We have seen this play out at some hospitals and be met with some criticism, but which groups are behind this push and what are they saying now? What's the reaction?
So this is a group made up of about 50 organizations, one of them the American Medical Association, and they're recommending that all employers are vaccinated in these healthcare systems. They say that requiring vaccinations for employment is, quote, the logical fulfillment of the ethical commitment to all patients in their care. And now this also comes separately from the healthcare industry. We saw yesterday in New York City and the state of California requiring their employees to be vaccinated or submit to weekly testing. Savannah.
And more quickly, we've been talking about cities reinstating mask mandates. Savannah, Georgia has announced they will now require masks indoors and on public transportation. We know Los Angeles has been doing something similar. What did officials say about this decision?
The mayor of the city of Savannah said that this is due to 4 factors. Again, the prevalence of the Delta variant, a low vaccination rate, locally large gatherings, and the fact that people are letting their guard down. And he's saying until those case numbers go back down, they won't be lifting that mandate. He's asking people not to complain, but instead to get vaccinated and mask up. And obviously, those factors are the same things we're seeing spike in a lot of communities around the country. Here in Chicago, even the mayor is saying that as cases rise, she's thinking about reinstating that mask mandate as well as also looking at reinstating certain restrictions.
All right, lots to watch for. Maura, thank you so much.
New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio is now requiring all municipal workers get vaccinated by September 13th. If workers refuse, they'll face weekly COVID testing. Police officers and public school teachers are among those impacted by the new policy. The move will make New York City one of the largest U.S. employers to require that employees get vaccinated, affecting about 340,000 people. NBC News correspondent Rahima Ellis has more.
Good morning, Savannah and Joe. As New York City's COVID positivity rate has gone up because of the Delta variant spreading in the city, the mayor announced on Monday that all New York City workers have to be vaccinated or subject to weekly testing because he wants to make certain that everyone in the city is safe. Take a listen.
This is about our recovery. This is about what we need to do to bring back New York City. This is about keeping people safe. This is about making sure our families get through COVID okay. This is about bringing back jobs, you name it.
This mandate takes effect September 13th, and that's also the first full day of the start of the new school year. And as we say, it is for all New York City workers. That's more than 330,000 of them, including teachers, police officers, firefighters, sanitation workers, and everyone working in a school, from the staff to the cafeteria workers. It should also be mentioned that this comes on top of another mandate that the mayor issued last week, and this was for all workers inside of New York City public hospitals. He said that they must also are mandated to get vaccine or they will be subject to weekly COVID testing. The mayor also now is urging that private companies that are stationed here in New York, that they should mandate their workers to do the same thing. Savannah and Joe.
All right, Rahima Ellis. Rahima, thank you so much.
Let's now bring in Dr. Amy Adalja. He's the senior scholar at the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security. Dr. Adalja, good morning. So we just heard there in Rahima's report about New York City requiring these vaccinations or testing for city workers. Many other cities are following suit. I mean, what do you think about this plan? Is this actually going to help prevent outbreaks?
It definitely will prevent outbreaks. We know the biggest factor now in whether a state has cases that are spiraling out of control is how vaccinated their population has been. We've seen with mandates for influenza that they really increase vaccine uptake. And I think this is something that people should be looking at all across the country, that organizations, employers, including my own in the healthcare industry, should be mandating people that be vaccinated as a condition of employment. These vaccines are safe and efficacious. Businesses need them for workforce resilience. And I think it's one way to move forward in this pandemic.
Also, what do you think about travel? We heard just before, Rahima, from Maura, that the U.S. is keeping these foreign travel restrictions and many cities are bringing back these mask mandates. What would you tell people who have summer trips planned, who thought, things are getting better, I'm going to take a vacation this year, I didn't last year? What do you think about that? Is it safe to do so?
It all depends on the context. So first of all, I'd make sure that you're fully vaccinated and everyone in your traveling group is fully vaccinated if they can be. Then you need to take a look and see what goes on in those countries. What types of testing and quarantine requirements are there, and see that you can be able to meet them. And remember that you have to get a test coming back into the United States. Then I think you can sort of do it in a safe manner, but you've got to be smart about it. You've got to be proactive, and you want to have all of this planned out before you leave.
Now, Doctor, also yesterday we got some new guidance released by HHS, the Department of Justice, announcing that long COVID can be a disability under the Americans with Disabilities Act. Long COVID, something we, of course, still have a lot of questions on, but what were some of the effects they pointed to? And if someone is dealing with this, maybe thinks that they're dealing with this after having contracted COVID, what should they know? What should they do if they are having to try to deal with long COVID?
Long COVID is still a bit of a mystery. We don't have really great diagnostic criteria. We don't really know who's at risk for it, other than it happens more commonly in females, older people, people that have other medical conditions. That's more likely to be someone that gets long COVID, but we still can't predict it, and we don't have a blood test that you can do, which makes it very hard. But it's clear that some proportion of people who have COVID can't get back to their basic level of living. They have difficulty with their activities of daily life. They have brain fog. They have an inability to exercise at the level that they did before. And I think that's what's being recognized as being limiting and something that the government wants to be part of the disability program that we have with the ADA and other laws. I think that this is going to be something that's a long tail of this pandemic. And if you think you might have these symptoms, there are long-haul COVID clinics opening up at many medical centers where they're trying to study these people, understand these people, try to figure out what's common among them, what's different among them, and what treatments might work.
And I imagine that this gives you some peace of mind to have this guidance from Health and Human Services and the Department of Justice, if it's something that you're dealing with, at least that it's being recognized. Dr. Adalja, always great to see you. Thank you so much.
Wildfires raging out west are having an impact on the country in some way, from Alaska all the way to the East Coast. Fires are burning from Alaska to Texas, blanketing the country in smoke. As far as the East Coast, more than 5,000 firefighters on the front lines are struggling to contain the flames. In all, at least 85 wildfires are burning across 13 states. More than 2.2 million acres have burned so far this year. That's 500,000 more than this time last year. And the wildfire season is far from over. Northern California's Dixie Fire is now burning an area the size of New York City, threatening 10,000 homes.
And with that, let's get a check on your morning news now weather.
Yeah, Bill Cairns is back with us fresh from his Ironman finish. Bill, great to have you with us. Congratulations.
I just don't get it. I thought you guys were my friends, and then you go and let me do something crazy like that.
Yeah, honestly, what did I email you? I said, what? What are you doing?
Yeah, 4 years ago, New Year's Eve, a bunch of dads and I did a weight loss challenge, and I went to run 2 miles. And a guy walking his golden retriever passed me 4 years ago. And that was my first workout. And then, yeah, pretty crazy. And I slowly built up and built up. I wasn't super fast. I wasn't super slow. I was right in the middle. And I was so happy to have my kids there to watch at the finish. Look how emaciated I was. I think I lost 6 to 8 pounds during the 13 hours of working out.
Oh,
I mean,
it was
goodness. It was pretty crazy. Yeah.
Also, Bill,
yeah,
that note from your daughter. It's so sweet. I saw that on Instagram too.
Yeah, that would. I looked at that many times. She tried to because dehydration is a huge problem. So, yeah, she reminded me to drink and said she loved me and hoped I did well. So, yeah, that definitely helped.
Up there, William Cairns. Yeah. Oh, and your daughters are adorable. I think the note's the next picture, but so sweet that they did that. There it is. Drink every 10 minutes. Love you.
That was good.
Too cute. All right, we're stopping for you. Congrats.
All right, thank you very much. Never doing it again. All right, so dangerous heat throughout the middle of the country today. It's going to be very hot. This is kind of one of the first times. Much of the heat has been in the west, so we're kind of switching things up a little bit. The southeast and the northern plains are going to be very hot. The Midwest hasn't had a brutal summer. 93 in Chicago today. Tomorrow it gets to 97 in St. Louis, and then the heat's going to continue right through the end of the week. It's the peak of summer. You kind of expect it a little bit. So this isn't like earth-shattering news, but it's really the first hot temperatures. We haven't talked a lot about the heat in Dallas and other areas. And isolated severe today going through the Great Lakes and maybe into the Northeast. Tomorrow, watch out in areas like Wisconsin, but not so concerned about severe weather. And you know what's great, guys? Now we're pushing through the end of July. And remember, we had all those problems in the tropics early in June. We're like, this is going to be a horrific season. I need to knock on wood somewhere, but we don't have any issues coming at us in the tropics. So that's good.
All right, that is good. All right, we're happy to have you back. Thank you, Bill.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.